Hey, I want to welcome you to Oak Ridge Online and thank you for joining us. We exist to bring hope and healing to hearts and homes, and we hope today that you can tell that's what we're all about. Before we jump into today's service, here's a few things that will help you have the best online experience here at Oak Ridge. First, download the Oak Ridge app so that you can follow along with today's message notes as well as fill out your online Connect card. And let me know how I can pray for you. You can also find lots of resources that we offer on our homepage at orbc.net. Well, we're going to jump into service. The worship band's got lots of great songs planned for us that you're going to enjoy, and we've got a message that I think is going to be so encouraging to you, and all of that starts in just a minute.
How's everyone doing? Where are my Christmas lovers out here today? That's what I'm talking about. See, Pastor Brian made it seem like there were so many people who didn't like Christmas, but I don't know about you. We've had Christmas going in my house since about June. So we like to get started super early, and we spread that to all of our kids as well. Christmas is my favorite time of year. How many guys have had their tree up already? No? Some people? Wow, we need to get on it. It's Thanksgiving week, guys. We got to get on this. We got to spread the joy. So thank you, Anna, for leading us with a Christmas song this morning. I want to give a special shout out to everyone joining us today at our that are online and at our watch party. Also, this is your first or second time here. We're super pumped that you're here today. Do me a favor and take your phone out. Let's go ahead and check in and share this service. And while you're doing that, maybe drop in your favorite Christmas carol or Christmas song as well. Spread the joy of what your favorite song is. This is the best time of year. And guys, can I just share a little bit about why I love Christmas so much, and especially Christmas at Oak Ridge? And it's all because of hope. God, when Jesus came during Christmas time, he came and brought hope to us. And I don't know about you guys, but this year has been a little bit hard, right? We've all been through some difficult times, some struggles, and it's nice to know that we have hope. And we have hope because Jesus came, and that's why we celebrate Christmas, and that's why I love it so much. It's my favorite time of year, so I just enjoy celebrating all year long. But Pastor Brian's got a great message today. Brian with a Y is on deck today, and he's going to talk about being grateful, right? It's a good week to talk about being grateful. There's a couple things today to help you with the service. You received some message notes when you came in. You can also get those message notes online. If you text Connect Card to 484848, you'll get that Connect Card sent right to you. That's got message notes. The message notes are on there. The Connect Card is there as well. The few things on that Connect card that are really important to us. The first thing is there's a section there that says, how do we do? We'd love to get your feedback on our service today, whether you're watching online or if you're here with us today. We'd love to get that feedback so we can continue to create great services for you. There's also a spot there where you can write a prayer request. We'd love to pray with you through this season. And yeah, that's awesome. So we're going to get ready to do some more praising. So let's pray before we continue to worship. Dear God, thank you so much for everything you've done for us. We have so much to be grateful for your Son coming to us to bring hope. God, we want to lift the rest of this service up to you. We ask all these things in your name. Amen.
Good morning, everyone. Would you stand and worship with us this morning?
Fear must have thought I was faithless. I came for Bible tells us that this is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. So we're going to sing this next song and remind him that we are grateful for all that he's done and all that he's yet to do. Come on. Thank you for singing with us. You may be seated.
I want to show you a word that no one wants to be called, and it's ungrateful. Nobody wants to be called this word, do they? Especially during times like this, during this time of season. Nobody wants to be called ungrateful because, well, it just doesn't have a great reputation, does it? Being ungrateful, is like other words that we talk about here in church sometimes and things that we talk about. We know that sometimes being ungrateful is hard to see in the mirror. You might know when you're angry. You might know when, you're nervous. You might even sometimes admit when you're insecure. But this word right here, ungrateful, you never see this in the mirror, do you? You never see this in the mirror. In fact, if anyone has ever told you that you're ungrateful, what did you do? You pushed back. You got defensive, and you immediately started saying, hey, wait a minute. I'm a grateful person. And you retreated to all those thoughts, and those things of those grateful thoughts, those grateful feelings. And the reason that we don't like when people tell us and accuse us of being ungrateful is because, we feel like they're accusing us of not feeling something. And again, we think about all these grateful thoughts and these grateful feelings, and we immediately start to rehearse all these grateful thoughts in our mind, and we think, hey, I'm a grateful person, and then we start feeling even more grateful than we did before they said that to us because we think about and we retreat to our grateful thoughts and grateful feelings. This is why, this word right here, this is why you can be in your key relationships, and for the rest of your life, you could be in your key relationships and never ever know that you're ungrateful. Because it's so hard to see in the mirror. In fact, there are people right now that are saying, I am so glad they're here. Right? There's people right now that are saying, I'm so glad my kids are here. I'm so glad that my husband is here. I'm so glad my wife is here. I just wish someone was here. Maybe you're watching online and you're pausing because you're like, honey, you should come see this message, right? Because we often see it in somebody else, but it's so hard to see in ourselves. As a matter of fact, I'll talk to other people about you being ungrateful, but I'll never, ever say to your face that you're ungrateful. Now, this is an important word for us, okay? Not just this time of year, for our whole lives it's an important word because the opposite of this word is what? It's grateful, right? The opposite of this word is grateful. And being grateful brings out a lot of great things in people that you're in relationships with. And we all know this. When you do something for someone and they're grateful, what do you want to do? You want to do something else for them, right? Or you want to go and do something for someone else as well. When you've been generous to someone and it seems as though, they're ungrateful, what does it do? It kind of shuts you down, doesn't it? Like you don't want to do it anymore. If you've ever worked with the homeless or you've worked with the working poor or you've done something, in the community where you're serving others, charity work, isn't it so interesting? But the ones that you help that are grateful, you want to do more for. You want to help more. But the ones that you feel like that maybe are just kind of taking advantage of you or not grateful for it, you just kind of move on, right? It's a natural reaction, isn't it? See, when I do something nice or when I help someone and they are grateful, it makes me want to do more. The other reason that this is such an important topic for us is that when people have a sense that someone is grateful for what they're doing, it can not only shut down generosity, it can also shut down an entire relationship. As a matter of fact, some of you are here or watching online right now, and if I was to ask you to tell me of a story, you could tell me of a time, or maybe that you're in an ongoing relationship right now, and one time that relationship was warm, it was, full of life, full of passion, full of emotion, and then over time, it started to shut down. Why? Because the person that you're closest to or feel closest to or in the relationship with or friends or somebody with, well, they just started to send you a signal that they're not that grateful for you. Because when you don't communicate that you're grateful, it not only shuts down as a person's willingness to be generous, it can shut down, and some of you are experiencing this right now, and you've been on the other side of this as well too, it can shut down an entire relationship. And the worst part is, this is what's so crazy about this, is that you don't even know that it's going on. You don't even know that it's happening. We don't know that it's going on because being ungrateful is almost impossible to see in yourself. It's almost impossible to see ungrateful in the mirror. We can see it in other people, but we can't see it in ourselves. You know, when I talk to people, in this job, you get to talk to people a lot, and I love talking to people, you know, and when I get to talk to people about the issues that they're having, I've never, and maybe they're out there, but I've never met anybody who said, you know, Pastor Brian, I've just figured it out. I know what my problem is. I'm ungrateful. You know, I've never had anybody tell me that. I've had them tell me that, you know, hey, I'm a jerk, you know, I work too much, I keep too many hours at the office, I have anger issues and all that kind of stuff, but I've never, ever had anybody say, hey, I figured out my problem. I'm just an ungrateful person. Never heard that, because it's almost impossible to see in the mirror. And you know, this is the thing. This goes, you know, this is at the heart, I think, of relational issues with our parents, with our kids, with someone at work. You know, anybody got, you know, somebody at work that they have relational issues with, right? You know, this can happen even at home with your spouse. So what I thought, since it's Thanksgiving week, and maybe I've got your attention now, I thought that we would talk about it. And then listen, here's what I want you to know. This is going to be really, really good because, you know, this message, these verses that we're going to look at today changed my life years ago. They're continuing to change my life. And here's the thing. If it's worked for me, it's going to be a breeze for you guys because you all pick up on things way quicker than I do, all right? So I want to point you to some verses today from a guy named Luke. Luke wrote one of the Gospels, which is the eyewitness account of Jesus, and it's strategically called the Gospel of Luke, right? Bible's hard. All right, so this is an account from the life of Jesus by Luke. And maybe some of you have heard this story, but here's the thing. This is a huge message for any of us that struggle and need some help in this area of being grateful, okay? And as you'll see, here's what's really cool. What you'll see within these verses today, this really great question that Jesus asked. Jesus asked us a question today in these verses that takes us to the heart of the issue of gratitude. Let me walk you through this. Luke says this. Now, on his way, Jesus is going to Jerusalem, okay? Jesus traveled along the border between Samaria and Galilee. So here Jesus, he's going to Jerusalem. If you've ever read anything about Jesus, and if you haven't read anything about Jesus, you should read about Jesus, all right? You don't have to be a Christian. You don't even have to be a religious person to read about Jesus. You could just read about Jesus and like, wow, he's pretty cool. I like Jesus. So Jesus, if you read about him or know anything about him, he's traveling to Jerusalem because ultimately he's going to give his life. He's going to die on a cross. He's going to give his life for humanity, to die for our sins. And Jesus, as he often does, he's going through the outskirts. You know, often he wanted to get away from the crowds because everybody wants a piece of Jesus. And Luke tells us this is what he's doing. He goes on, he says, as he was going into the village, how many? 10. Type 10 in the comments. 10 men who had leprosy met him. And they stood at a distance, and this is interesting, and called out in a loud voice, Jesus, hey, buddy, have some mercy, have some pity on us, right? So, you know, some of you may know this, but back then, they thought that leprosy was just a horrible disease. And not only was it a horrible disease, they thought it was contagious. They thought that you could get it if you just touched somebody, right? So if you had leprosy, you were put outside of town. You became, you know, an outcast. And lepers, you know, had this kind of leopard colony, you know, that's kind of where they were at, and they all huddled together, you know, and they were away from society. You had to depend on people to bring you food. You had to depend on people to communicate with you and tell you what's going on back at home, you know. So you've got all these lepers that are kind of huddled together, and immediately, you became an outcast when you had leprosy. You would have been an outcast from your family. You would have been an outcast from your work. You would have been an outcast from, you know, you would have been a religious outcast, which meant you weren't able to go to church, okay, because you were ceremonially unclean. You're like, ugh, yucky. You know, you can't come here around us, right? If you came close to anyone in passing, which is why this was happening, you had to yell out to them, leper, leper, or you had a bell. Can you imagine? They made you carry a bell so that people knew that you were coming. So that people would know that you were coming and you had leprosy and you had to stay far away. If you had leprosy, you would have been, at best, destined to live a life alone, away from everybody else. So Jesus, as Luke tells us, is walking on the outskirts of town, as he often did, trying to avoid the crowds, not being seen. And Jesus is walking along, and he hears these voices calling out to him, Master, have pity on us. He goes on, it says this. He said, when he saw them, he said, go, show yourself to the priest. So imagine the scene. You know, they're over here, Jesus is over here, and they're like, hey, Master, have pity on us. And he's like, go show yourself to the priest. And they're like, what did he say? Go have a feast? What are you talking about? No, go show yourself to the priest, which would have seemed so strange that Jesus would have done this for these guys? Like, why is he telling us this? Go show yourselves to the priest. Now, here, let me explain to you why Jesus did this. Jesus is doing three things here as he tells them this. See, there were times when people who had leprosy were healed. I mean, there wasn't any medicine. There was no cure for leprosy back then. But sometimes a person with leprosy would be healed. And part of the thing, if you had leprosy, if you wanted to kind of get back into society, kind of get back in with your people and all that stuff, you had to go see the priest. And I don't know what the priest did. I guess you went to him. He's like, open up, the cough. I don't know. But anyway, you had to go to the priest, and he would examine you and say, okay, you don't have leprosy anymore, so you can go back in society. So Jesus, knowing this, or yelled at them and told them this from a distance, go show yourself to the priest. Now, as you can imagine, this would have seemed strange to them, right? Because why are you telling us to go tell the priest something that they already know? We have leprosy. Can't you see this, Jesus? We have leprosy, And yet, Jesus told them to go tell the priest. Now, here's what Jesus was asking them to do. Jesus was asking them something to do that he asked. Jesus was asking them to walk by faith. Everybody say, walk by faith. Jesus was asking them to walk by faith. And walking by faith, we talk about that in church circles. Well, you got to walk by faith, brother. What does that mean? Okay, it's pretty simple. Walking by faith is simply taking God at his word and that trusting that he will keep his word. That's what walking by faith means. And that's what Jesus was saying. Hey, you've called me master, so obviously you think I'm someone who could help you. Maybe you really believe that I am who I say I am, that I'm the Messiah, the Savior of the world. But somewhere inside of you, you think that I can help you. So if you really believe that, if you really think that I can help you, then I'm asking you to have faith and go show yourselves to the priest as an act of faith. The other thing Jesus knew about this, as he goes and tells them to do this, that when they went to show up to the priest, what do you think they were going to think? What? If one guy showed up with leprosy that was healed, hey, they see that. But for 10 guys to show up, they're going to be like, what happened? What do you mean to tell me that all of you all had leprosy and then you just didn't have leprosy anymore? I mean, come on, what's going on here? I mean, again, if one showed up, maybe 2, but for 10 to show up, doesn't even seem like that could happen. And they're just like, well, yeah, I know it's crazy, but this guy Jesus, have you heard of him? Wears sandals, cloth around here. And he just yelled at us. We thought he was inviting us to a feast, but he said, go see the priest, and we go see you, and on the way, we're healed of our leprosy. It just disappeared. So these guys, are like, hey, what do we got to lose? What if this works? And Luke goes on and it says this, as they went, they were what? They were cleansed. So they were all, in fact, healed of their leprosy. And this is where the story gets interesting. And this is where the story intersects with this topic of gratitude. Look at this. One of them. Everybody say one of them. Text one of them in the chat. One of them. When he saw that he was healed, did what? He came back praising God in a loud voice. Now this is interesting, right? Because one of them, not 10, not 5, one of them came back. It would seem as though he was the only one that as he's going to go see the priest, that he's walking, that he notices, wait a minute, like I don't have leprosy anymore. It would seem as though he realized, like, I've got fingers because they fall off when you have leprosy. Like my body has been healed. I no longer have leprosy. I can feel my fingers. I can feel my toes again. It seems like he's the only one that says, oh my gosh, I've been healed. I don't have leprosy anymore. And he's so excited that it says that he came back praising God. Look at what else he did. He threw himself at Jesus' feet and thanked him. And he was a Samaritan. Can you imagine if you're this guy? Can you imagine if you lived your entire life, and some of you all can appreciate this because you feel like an outcast. You feel like people have pushed you aside, right? So some of you guys know what this guy maybe would feel like. But can you imagine if you lived your entire life as an outcast like this? Think about the display of gratitude that you would have if this happened to you, if you were healed and you were able to come back into society. I mean, think about this. To be rid of this dreaded disease, he runs back. He's like, Jesus, thank you. Falls at his feet and thanks Jesus for what he's done. And oh, by the way, Luke tells us he was a Samaritan, which was, if you know anything about these times, that was a jab at the Jewish people. It makes us think that the other 9 were Jewish, and they should have been the ones that knew to come back. And yet this Samaritan who Jews didn't like, who were despised, who people thought they just shouldn't even be around him, the Samaritan is the one that came back. He got his life back from Jesus. Can you imagine how this guy must feel? Now, here's the thing. We all can relate to this because if we look back in our life, we all would say there's somebody in our lives that helped us move forward. If we were to look back in the rearview mirror and look back on our lives, we would say, hey, there was someone that helped us get where we are today, right? There's someone that helped you be successful. There was someone who helped you be the person you are, someone who helped you get, into a recovery program and change your life when you were addicted to drugs, right? We all have someone that if we would look back, if we would adjust our rearview mirror so we could see behind us, we would think about that person that helped us get where we are. There are people that do that for us, and Jesus helped this guy, and he went back to Jesus. He went back to Jesus to thank him because he realized that Jesus had changed his life. And then Jesus asked this question I told you that he asked, that's tucked in these verses, that is easy to run past, that's easy to overlook, that's easy to not think about. And Jesus takes us and asks this question that takes us to this tension point between gratitude and ingratitude. And Jesus says this, were not all 10 cleansed? Where are the other 9? Where are the other 9? Wait, Jesus, you can almost feel Jesus' tension. And I think Jesus is being a little sarcastic here, right? Okay? But he's kind of like, wait a minute. Wasn't there 10 and only one's come back? Where are the other 9? Now, we'll come back to this in a minute at the end of the message, but right here, I think, is the tension that we all live with, all right? And many of our relationships in being thankful, okay? Jesus points out here that there's something drastically wrong with this picture. There's something wrong with this picture and what's going on, and it's something that's drastically wrong in our lives as well, too, that's wrong for us today. And Jesus asked the question, were not all 10 cleansed? Where are the other 9? He goes on, he says, has no one returned to give praise to God except this foreigner, talking about the Samaritan? And then he said to him, because this guy's at his feet, right? Rise, go, your faith has made you well. Now, as you read this story, the typical response to this story is, wow, that one guy was so grateful. But those other 9, they were jerks. They were so ungrateful. I mean, and Jesus just gave them something that was going to radically change their life, something that they didn't have. Again, they're outcasts. They're probably never, ever going to have an experience like this again with Jesus. He gave them their family back. He gave them their career back. But yet, they didn't come back. They didn't come back to thank the one that helped them. And here's what I think. Imagine with me, this isn't in the Bible, okay? This is just me, okay? But here's what I think. Imagine if we could run ahead of these guys, and they're on their way to the priest, and we're like, hey, guys, hold up a second. Slow your roll, all right? Let me ask you a question. Are you grateful for what Jesus just did for you? I think if we could ask him that, what do you think they would say? They'd say, of course we're grateful. Are we grateful? What do you mean? We're so grateful. We're trying to get to the priest to do what Jesus told us to do, but you're getting in the way, right? Of course we're grateful. Are we grateful? I can almost guarantee that's what they would have said if we could have ran ahead of them and stopped them before they got to the priest. Are you grateful? Of course. Are you kidding me? I was cut off from society. I couldn't be around my kids. I was missing fingers, all right? No one would be around us. I couldn't go to the local Walmart in Jerusalem. This is a big deal for us. Okay? There isn't one then, but there is now, actually. But anyway, are we grateful? Of course we're grateful. I'm so thankful. How could I not be thankful? I've got so many thankful thoughts. We can't wait to show the priest. We can't wait to tell them that Jesus, this guy Jesus in sandals and long hair, he just did this for us, and we can't wait to see our family. We're going to go to church this week. It's going to be so good, and we're going to tell everybody. I heard they got a testimony service, and our testimony is going to be great, right? Of course they're grateful. Our life will be able to tell about the story about the time that Jesus healed us. Meanwhile, Jesus is in the back with his guys and the disciples saying, weren't there 10? Where's the other 9? Weren't there 10 and only one has come back, and the one that came back's not even Jewish? The one that should have known to come back? And meanwhile, the other guys are just trucking along. They're not even thinking about what Jesus did. They're not even thinking about going back and thanking him for what they did. They have no idea that they've missed part of the step. They've had no idea that they haven't expressed their gratitude. It hasn't even crossed their mind. They don't realize that they've left something unfinished. Meanwhile, Jesus and the disciples are saying, weren't there not 10? Where's the other 9? So they have the same problem we have, I think, often. They felt it, they just didn't express it. They felt it, but they didn't express it. Now, let me tell you how this plays out in our relationships today, okay? You feel it, you believe it, but you haven't expressed it to the people that are closest to you. Because here's the thing, and you know this because this is true about me, so I'm assuming it's true for many of you too as well. We will tell everyone, except those who matter the most, how thankful we are, right? Hello. We'll tell everyone. Let me explain to you. You will tell everyone, you'll tell your boss how awesome your wife is. You'll tell him how awesome your wife is. You'll tell your friends how great your parents are. You will tell the girls at work that your husband is the greatest husband that's ever lived. He's the best guy and everything. I'll brag to everyone about all the great decisions that my kids are making. Listen, we will tell everyone around us how grateful we are for those most important to us, but we don't express it to the people most important to us. Because we're grateful. We feel it, we think it, but we don't often express it. And listen, somewhere in your life, there's someone, and he might not say it this way, or she might not say it this way, but she would say, weren't there 10? Where's the other 9? Because only one came back to say thank you. See, here's the thing. I think this is the principle that we can get today. Unexpressed gratitude, this is your fill-in. You only got one this week, right? Unexpressed gratitude communicates ingratitude. It does. Isn't that true? And any of you that are like me that are words person, you're like, amen, brother, preach it. That's what they need to start telling us more of this, right? It's true, though. Unexpressed gratitude, it's real gratitude. It is. It's real gratitude. I really feel it. I really believe it. I am really grateful. And if you pin me down in the corner in the lobby and ask me, am I grateful for this? I would say, oh, man, am I grateful for you all? Am I grateful for my wife and my kids? I would do it. But I don't always express it. Because unexpressed gratitude is real gratitude. But unexpressed gratitude communicates the opposite of what you think and what you feel. It communicates ingratitude. It does. And just like the other 9 lepers, when you don't go back, just like the other 9 lepers, listen, we're so forward thinking. We're so forward oriented, right? Aren't we? Especially as Americans, it's like, I got to get to the next one. I got to get to the next level. I got to get to the next job. I got to get to the next location. I'm always going forward, forward, forward. That's all I think about. And now that I have this education, and now that I have this degree, now that I have this job, now that she's my wife, I've got her. I don't have to pay attention to her, right? Yeah, now that he's my husband, we're going to kind of put it on autopilot, right? This is what we think. And if you would stop me mid-sentence, of course, I would tell you, man, I'm grateful. I'm grateful for these things in my life. But unexpressed gratitude communicates ingratitude. It's almost impossible to see in the mirror. It gets worse because unexpressed gratitude is a form of rejection. It is. And all of you ladies who've cooked meals understand where I'm going with this, okay? And you know where I'm going with this because you've cooked the Mac Daddy meal for your family. I mean, you went to the store, you went and got the groceries. I mean, you even didn't watch Ellen today, all right? Because this was going to be the Mac Daddy meal for you, and it's dinner time, and you call everybody, honey, kids, come on to dinner, and guess what you hear on the other end? Crickets. okay? They're not coming. And you call them again, and then they finally come into the dinner table, and, he's texting or he's on Facebook, and the kids are chatting about, what was going on in the living room before they got there, right? You know what I'm talking about. And then, someone wants to sit down, like, hey, let's turn the TV on, and, your husband he puts it on mute to kind of just make a concession for you because he feels like, he probably shouldn't be doing that. And everybody's so focused, and they hurry up, and then they get finished, and then they ask to be excused, or they just walk off, and, husband's checking his Facebook or his text, and you're about to lose it, ladies. I mean, you're about to have a Medea moment. You're like, you better get back up in this kitchen. And you're mad. And if you were to pause and ask them, hey, don't you appreciate Mom for cooking this meal? Don't you appreciate me, your wife, for doing this? The fact that I worked all day to make this wonderful meal to you? And they would all say, of course we do. What? Your mom, of course we do. But because nobody communicates that, since no one said thank you, the thoughts that you are thankful for her doing that stuff, she feels the opposite. She feels the opposite. And what you've really expressed to her is, and you don't even mean to do this, but what your wife feels, what your mom feels, is that you're my mom. You're supposed to do that stuff. You're the wife. You're the woman. I've worked all day. That's your job, right? That's what she feels. And then, husbands, why do we do this? We go into the kitchen, and she's throwing dishes and throwing them into the dishwasher, and she's mad. And what do we ask, husbands? Honey, what's wrong? That is so not the thing to ask. I mean, at that moment, you just better hope that the knives haven't been sharpened, right? Why do we do that? We do that because we have no idea, have not even thinking about it, just like the other 9. And because we didn't express it, she feels the opposite of what we think. She feels, you're my wife, you're supposed to cook. You're the mom, you're supposed to do that. Aren't we entitled to that? Leave us alone as we go and watch TV and open up the mail and do our homework. And mom and wife feel something that you never intended them to feel. And it goes both ways, doesn't it, Dad? Right? It's like, Dad, I need $40. Dad, I need a car. Dad, I need some clothes. Honey, Sally and Bill went on a vacation. We need to go on a vacation. And, and you love doing all this stuff for your kids, dads, right? You do, okay? But at some point, you feel like an ATM machine, don't you? Because it's just kind of going out and out and out and out, and it just wears you out. And again, if I was to stop your wife out here in the lobby and I'd say, hey, you know what, your husband's, he's a pretty cool guy. She'd go on, she'd go on and on and on and on and on about how awesome you are. And if I was to ask your kids, your son or daughter, like, hey man, like that's a cool car. Yeah, my dad gave it to me. He's cool, right? You would say these things. But because you don't to them, you know what he feels? He feels rejection. He feels something that you never wanted him to feel, but because when you don't express gratitude, it communicates the opposite. Here's the bottom line. If it's not communicated, it doesn't exist. Case in point, back to Jesus. Weren't there 10? Weren't there 10? I mean, the other 9 are high-fiving. They're having a party. Meanwhile, Jesus is back there saying, weren't there 10? Because unexpressed gratitude is the same as ingratitude. This goes from kids to parents, from parents to kids to in-laws and relationships. I mean, this at work, I could go on and on and on. And what we express is, you're my son, you're supposed to do that. You're my daughter, you're supposed to do that. You're my wife, you're supposed to do that. You're my boss, so aren't you supposed to do that? Aren't you supposed to ensure that happens at work? And I mean, that's what we think. And man, we wouldn't say that we're entitled, but by not saying thank you, the message we send is I'm ungrateful. So let me ask you something, and we'll wrap this up. Who comes to mind as I'm talking about this? Who comes to mind as you're hearing me say all this? Who comes to mind? Because I know right now, like me, you're thinking about them. Who are the people that if I was to stop you halfway, if I was to stop you mid-sentence, that you would say, man, I'm so grateful for them, but you haven't communicated it? Who do you need to tell? Who is that person? I know you're my boss, but thank you. Hey, look, I know that, you love doing this stuff at home and it keeps the house going and you provide and all that stuff, but I got to tell you thank you. Hey, Mom, Dad, I mean, like, you make my lunches every day, and that's cool, and I appreciate that. But I got to tell you, I just want to say thank you. listen, I know you need to do this. I know you like doing this, but I need to express to you that I'm grateful. Because when you don't, they have no idea. And my question for you today is this. For the rest of your life, are you willing in your key relationships? Are you willing in your key relationships? Are you willing to be like the one? Are you willing to be like the one? The one that came back and said thank you. And let me just say this. Can I go here for a minute? Can I go somewhere where I think I need to go? Listen, if you hear me say that and something rises up in you and says, I'm not doing that, that's pride. That's pride. And you need to deal with that. If something rises up on inside of you that causes you to resist, you should pay attention to that because that's pride. And you know this, let me just be honest with you. There's some of you here right now that for some of you, if you would just start this, if you would start telling the people closest to you how thankful for you are, it would save your relationships. It would save your marriage. It would save the relationship with your kids. It would save your job if you would just start doing this. Because I'm just going to be honest with you, it's been my experience. It's hard to see in the mirror. It's hard to see ungrateful in the mirror. And the only way that you overcome it is to decide, I'm going to be like the one. I'm going to be like the one that came back and thanked the person or people that are important to me. So here's what I'd ask you. Who's your question mark? Who's your question mark? Who are you thankful for? And are you willing to be like the one who puts the pause button on going forward and thinking ahead, who puts the pause button on that and actually goes back? And not just this week when it's Thanksgiving, but every day of your life will be the one that goes back and say out loud what you already know. Like, this isn't something that I have to teach you on the fact that you're grateful for him. You already are. You just have to express it. Will you be the one that says it out loud? Maybe what you've been too busy to say because you're working so much. Or maybe because you're always moving forward. You're going to the next thing. I get that. And you haven't taken the time. Who's come to mind right now? Maybe they're sitting next to you. Ladies, don't elbow him, okay? Who is that? And will you be the one? Will you be willing today to be the one that came back? And let me just ensure you this, okay? This has changed my life and my relationship with my wife and with my kids and my friends and my coworkers, and it'll change yours too. And it's continuing to change mine. And it's been hitting me at the core because there's some people in my life that I'm not grateful for as much as I should be. But together, why don't we decide? Why don't we decide that we're going to be like the one that came back? We're going to be like the one that goes back to the ones that helped us go forward, the ones that helped us be successful. Go back to the ones that maybe are living right in your house that you haven't said thank you to lately, the ones that you love the most, that are most important to you. What if we do that? Let me tell you, God will honor that. God will honor that in your key relationships. He'll honor that, and he'll get behind that if you decide that you're going to be like the one. Let me give you a couple things to put some wheels to the ground on it this week. Here's what I want you to do, okay? Because we can hear this, oh yeah, Pastor, I know, but we got to do something about it, right? I want you to do three things. I want you to ask, assess, and act. I want you to ask, and maybe you're already doing it, who am I grateful for? Who is that for you? I want you to assess, have you expressed it? And maybe for you, you do it, but maybe you realize today you need to do it more. Maybe you don't do it enough. Maybe you're that quarterly gratitude guy. Like every 3 months, you got a quarterly report, and you say, hey, this is who I'm thankful for, and I give them a budget report and a grateful report. All right, maybe you need to express it more. All the accountants said, thank you, I appreciate that. And then act. Don't just do these top two, then act. Meet with them to tell them. The good news is some of them are sitting right next to you in this room. Some of them are sitting right next to you on the couch. Some of them are maybe a phone call away, and some of them you'll be around this week. So will you do that this week? Let's say this together. Ask. Assess, act. One more time. Ask, assess, act. If you do this, it'll change your life. And it'll change the lives of those around you. Now, husbands, I know what you're thinking right now is you're thinking, well, I can't do it today because if I do it today, then she's going to know that I just did it because you told me to do it, all right? Let me just tell you, she won't think that way. She won't. She'll appreciate it. Matter of fact, you'll be surprised how much she will appreciate. Ladies, I know what you're thinking. You might be thinking, well, he's got a lot of areas to work on. And if I start telling him that I'm grateful for him, maybe he'll get the wrong image and message that he don't think he need to keep working on these areas. Let me free you from that. That is not what he will think. Matter of fact, he's waiting for you to cheer him on. You're his greatest cheerleader. And if you start cheering him, he'll change. And you can play a part. Kids, maybe you forgot to thank your parents. Maybe you think that $20 in the gas tank just gets in there, boom, by magic. Maybe you need to thank your kids. Who do you need to thank? Who do you need to thank? And will you be like the one? And will you also come back next week as we start our Christmas series? Christmas is still on, and invite somebody with you. Check out this promo video. It's awesome.
That's real life right there, right? Every year, right? The lights that you just bought, you plug them back, they don't work. And you get all tangled up, the ornaments break. It's crazy. But Christmas is still on here at Oak Ridge, and it gets started next week with our new series. It also is going to continue on shortly after the series starts with our Santa's Wonderland. How many have been a part of Santa's Wonderland before? Some people are here because of Santa's Wonderland. That's awesome. It's a great outreach event that we do every year here. It's one of the favorite things that we do here at Oak Ridge. My family loves it. We're a part of it every year. There's tons of serving opportunities for this year's Santa's Wonderland. It looks a little bit different because of everything going on. We're actually going to do a drive-through Santa's Wonderland, so we're still going to be able to spread hope throughout our Santa's Wonderland event. There's tons of opportunities to serve before, during the actual event, and after. That event's going to take place on December 10th, 11th, and 12th from 6:30 to 8:30 right in the parking lot. And so the guys that are the team that's a part of this Santa's Wonderland, they really are life changers in the community, and we do that through Oak Ridge. And if you want to be a part of that team to help really spread some hope to people through Santa's Wonderland, there's a couple ways you can actually do that. There's a QR code on your Connect card. You can scan that with your phone. You can also sign up on the ORBC app. I believe it's under the Grow tab. And then you can also sign up in the lobby if you're here with us today. I want to move on. Once again, if you're a first or second time guest, or if you haven't filled out your Connect card yet, we'd love for you to fill out that Connect card and give us your first impressions, and also leave your prayer requests there, because we'd love to pray with you throughout this week and throughout this season. We're going to move into a time, we're continuing into worship through giving. Once again, if you're a first-time guest, no pressure to give. In fact, we actually have a gift for you. Imagine that I'm holding a bag up. You've seen it. Pastor Brian has it. It's right there. It's the same thing, the green bag. There's a lot of things in there to help you learn more about Jesus, learn more about Oak Ridge. Just turn your Connect card out in the lobby, or you can check the first-time guest online if you're watching online with us, and we'll send that gift bag out to you. For everyone else, we're going to continue by giving. You can do that in 3 different ways. You can do that on the ORBC app. You can fill the envelope out. You can also go online and fill out and do your normal giving. Let's go ahead and pray. Dear God, thank you so much for this service, and thank you for Pastor Brian's word about being grateful, God. We have so much to be grateful for, especially during this time of year. And God, it's so easy to do, to just tell someone else that we appreciate them, God. We're so grateful for you and for everything you've given us. We're so grateful for your son sending us him during this Christmas season, God. We just want to lift up this offering to you and help you, hope that you multiply it and help Oak Ridge to continue to reach others and bring hope and healing to hearts and home. God, we're thankful for everyone here. Just want to lift up this week. We ask all these things in your name. Amen.